A Hawaii doctor is sitting behind bars right now, accused of trying to push his wife off of a cliffside during a hike on the island of Oahu. We are learning new details about what the woman says happened on that hiking trail when they were supposed to be celebrating her birthday. Plus, how divorce proceedings between the two could have an impact on his attempted murder trial. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey everybody, this is another Law&Crime legal alert. Did you know that children are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and the research is potentially linking ultra-processed foods to all this? Yeah, well, Morgan & Morgan, they're stepping in to fight to hold these food companies accountable. With decades of experience fighting large corporations, they are ready to stand up for the families who deserve justice. So if your child under 21 has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or fatty liver disease, then visit www.forthepeople.com/food or scan the QR code on screen to learn more. So a picturesque hike in Hawaii turned into a nightmare for Arielle Konig. She and her husband, anesthesiologist Dr. Gerhardt Konig, they were spending time on the island of Oahu to celebrate her birthday back in March. But police say Gerhardt took advantage of a hiking trail's location near steep cliff edges to allegedly throw his wife over the side. And when that didn't work, he apparently started beating her with a softball-sized lava rock and trying to inject her with some sort of syringe. A few other hikers came upon this terrifying scene, scaring Gerhardt off. Police say Gerhardt hid in a wooded area for hours until it started to get dark, and when they caught him, according to local media outlet WTAE, he allegedly said to officers, "Wait, she's not dead?" Yeah, that's the allegation. Now, while Arielle was taken to a hospital with major cuts, injuries, bruises to her face, Gerhardt was taken to jail. A grand jury indicted him on charge of second-degree attempted murder, but then a bail hearing was held to determine whether Gerhardt could be let out as he awaited trial, and guess what? The judge denied the request, agreeing with prosecutors that he is a danger to the community, that he is a flight risk, that he should be denied bail. So let's talk a little more about the people involved here, okay? So we have 46-year-old Gerhardt Konig. As I mentioned, he is this anesthesiologist, a doctor responsible for sedating patients for surgery, and more importantly, making sure they wake up. 36-year-old Arielle Konig, Gerhardt's second wife, reportedly a nuclear engineer. According to People magazine, Gerhardt had worked at a hospital in Pittsburgh before getting the chance to move to Maui in Hawaii. The couple has 2 young sons together, but Gerhardt has older children from his previous marriage. And People reports that the family lived in a $1.5 million home in a gated community and everything seemed perfect. But behind the scenes, there was reportedly tension, a lot of tension. Gerhardt apparently thought Arielle was having an affair. This is according to a protective order petition that was filed after the attack on the trail, or the alleged attack on the trail. This was first accusing her back in December. And Gerhardt and Arielle decided to take a short trip from Maui to Oahu for a getaway, leaving their 2 sons at home with a nanny. So there's a lot here. And to talk about what police reports and court documents reveal about the case, I want to bring in victims' rights attorney John Phillips. John, what a dramatic turn of events. I mean, from a nice morning hike as a couple to the husband allegedly trying to push his wife off of a cliff, trying to attack her, inject her. It's shocking.
It is shocking, and you've just got to roll it back to their toxic relationship, right? So even before this, you've got the customary. I don't do family law. My law partner is board certified in it. I can't stand family law and child custody disputes because they get so personal and contentious. But you got to roll it back to the divorce proceedings and the pre-divorce proceedings and an injunction and things that kind of were evolving between this couple, and it wasn't good. And yet, like most couples, they try to stay together. They try to work it out. What happened on March 24th? It's awful.
And if you take the allegations as true, it would seem that an argument that could be presented by the prosecutors if this goes to trial is he was trying to make it look like she fell, right? It was an accident. I mean, I can't understand this, but I can understand the crime scene. I can understand maybe the plot about why that specific environment was ideal for this.
Yeah, I guess. But, from the standpoint of all of the stuff, the affair, the the allegations, she claimed that he was kind of invading her privacy and stalking, which comes from, allegations of an affair. That abuse of trust is as bad as you could get in a couple's life. And it just seems to me, we've got two very smart people, Jesse. Why would you stage a murder scene when you have all of the motive and all of the stuff, that would ultimately come out and be investigated, even if it's by the life insurance company, right? And so logic doesn't fit the puzzle. But on the same token, when you have so much abuse of trust, so much disdain between a couple, what ultimately is going to be a life fight over these 2 and 4-year-old children, you do have people that make decisions out of passion and out of desperation.
So, according to police paperwork that was filed with the court to obtain the search warrants in this case, here's what apparently happened. Okay, quote, on March 24th, 2025 at about 10 a.m., Arielle Konig and her husband Gerhardt Konig went on a hike planned by Gerhardt at the Palipuka hiking trail for Arielle's birthday. John, by the way, important to note here that he planned the hike, so, again, goes to that idea of advanced planning, right?
That's premeditation. Right now it's charged as second degree, right, through an indictment, but that could escalate to first degree. I'm not quite sure how it works in Hawaii. That would be kind of possible premeditation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then it says, quote, at about 10:20 a.m. and about 10 minutes into the Pali Trail hike, Arielle decided to go back down because she was getting scared of the cliffs. But Gerhardt's demeanor became odd as he insisted on taking selfie pictures together while making their way back down the trail near a cliff's edge along the Pali Trail. By the way, amazing that you have this surviving victim and also potential other eyewitnesses. Put that to the side. So Arielle agreed to the pictures at first, but held onto a tree and asked Gerhardt to step away from the cliff, in which Gerhardt took a few steps as Arielle walked past it. So John, according to Hawaii's Department of Land and Natural Resources, that trail is actually closed because it's considered unsafe. But WTAE reports that people often go on it anyway, walking right past a sign that says, area closed, do not go beyond this sign, because it's such a popular lookout spot. Again, problematic?
Yeah, I kind of want to get on Google and kind of look at this park. And certainly if there's a sign, it depends on how many people and how often that sign was crossed, right? So we know there were some witnesses, but did those witnesses respond because of screaming? Did they respond because their attention was drawn? Or is this something that was so beautiful that people commonly ignored the sign? And then you go back to the point you brought up earlier about levels of premeditation, right? Certainly going to a place more private while being on a cliff's edge would be a better place to possibly commit a staged homicide. But one thing I can't get over, knowing the level of trouble this couple had, is why did Arielle keep going? Like, at some point you never want to blame the victim, but why go alone with this person that you lost trust with? Why keep going? Why challenge your fear?
There could be love there. You don't know exactly what that, this was as I'm reading it, I'm shocked at the allegations. Could she ever imagine something like this?
Right. She couldn't. But on the same token, a defense attorney is going to pick apart, what their relationship was and how high stakes a divorce with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old was, and pick apart the alleged affair and all of the things that was going on between them. You can't really separate the abuse, the affair, and this incident, from each other factually. You certainly can relate it to, the plotting and planning of a potential death. Like it's awful.
Let me continue on with with what the paperwork says here. So it says, quote, Gerhardt continued to ask Arielle several more times to take selfie pictures with Gerhardt at the cliff's edge, which alarmed Arielle due to their marriage having recent problems. So there you go, something that John just said. Quote, as Arielle walked past the cliff's edge and towards Gerhardt grabbed Arielle's shoulders and attempted to push her towards the edge of the cliff and said, I'm sick of this bleep, you're a lying B-word. And when Arielle reportedly brought up their children in common to try and convince Gerhardt not to push her off the cliff, Gerhardt said, they're only going to get one of us. And as Arielle was being allegedly pushed closer to the cliff's edge, she apparently threw herself to the ground in an attempt to stop Gerhardt from pushing her off the cliff's edge, began wrestling with Gerhardt while trying to defend herself. Quote, as Arielle wrestled with Gerhardt, Gerhardt got on top of Arielle. While holding Arielle down with one hand, Gerhardt used his other hand and took a syringe and a vial out of his backpack, at which time Arielle was able to get the syringe out of his hands and throw it away from them and scream for help. Arielle described the backpack as a Patagonia brand black one-shoulder bag that Gerhardt usually takes to work. As they kept wrestling, Gerhardt kept trying to pull Arielle towards the cliff's edge as Arielle screamed for help. Arielle continued to remind Gerhardt about their children and his parents while pleading with him to calm down as he appeared to be possibly grabbing another syringe from his backpack. So again, John, this is just an outrageous series of allegations, but I wonder, like you said, from the defense's point of view, could they say this is too outrageous to be believable?
I think that's right. In my note during that question, it was 5VV, Fifth Amendment versus victim statement. So you're going to get the victim statement, right? There's really no reason to hold back, particularly given all the cases they've got going. Meanwhile, you're going to have a defendant who is going to lawyer up. He's got the money to hire, a great lawyer, and his side's going to remain, steadfast under the Fifth Amendment right to against self-incrimination. But you're also going to tie in all these protective orders and divorce cases and everything else. And I know they're already trying to seal a lot of that. But what really gets me here is the syringe, possibly syringes. Why would you carry those around?
Yeah.
What was in them? The contents of those syringes is the key question.
An emergency sedation, an anesthesiologist had to have it on the go. I don't think that works.
With him being an anesthesiologist on top of it, it's one thing if it's insulin or if it's like some sort of EpiPen. If it's not something that they would have in their day-to-day life or need, then it really does point to murder plot.
So the document continues, quote, Gerhardt calmed down for a moment before picking up a rock from the ground near Arielle's head and struck Arielle on the head, face, and hand area with the rock about 10 times while using his other hand to grab Arielle's hair to lift up her head to bash it into the ground as Arielle screamed for help. As Gerhardt repeatedly struck Arielle with the rock, two women hikers approaching the area, interrupting Gerhardt's attack, prompting Gerhardt to get up and off of Arielle. So that's where this whole changes. Other than the injuries that she apparently sustained, you have now potentially two eyewitnesses. So according to prosecutors, after he ran off, Gerhardt called his adult son, allegedly told him he tried to kill Arielle because she was cheating on him. So now you have another alleged witness. And prosecutors also allege that he told his son he was planning to turn off his phone so police couldn't track him. Arielle went to the hospital with major cuts to her head from the softball-sized lava rock that her husband allegedly beat her with. And WTAE reports she had to have surgery. Now, a few days later, when she returned to her home to Maui, she called police to let them know that she'd found something suspicious in Gerhardt's closet. A warrant reads, quote, Arielle discovered what appeared to be several syringes and several different drug medicine vials. Upon speaking with Arielle via telephone, which was audio recorded, Arielle described the syringes she observed in the Nike fanny pack as clear, regular syringes and described the vials she observed in the Nike fanny pack as hospital vials. She also revealed that the fanny pack was, quote, Gerhardt's medical bag that he takes with him as he goes to and from work as an anesthesiologist. So the fanny pack was collected from the home by officers who immediately shipped it to the island of Oahu. A Honolulu police officer searched it, took photos of what they found inside, reportedly including multiple syringes and multiple vials of different anesthesia medications often found in hospitals. John, that's bad, right?
I think that's a bad fact. So you have syringes on the scene. You have a bag found with medical grade anesthesia. You want to put some level of prudence on these people and say, well, why would he keep it there? Why would, if you're in this situation that your spouse is going to be searching through everything in the house, particularly if they have control of it. Again, passion, hate, desperation, doesn't make a logical person. So yeah, certainly terrible facts. The defense side is, but of course he did. He's an anesthesiologist. He had to treat people in emergencies, and he's a hero, but I'm, that's again a check mark on Arielle's side.
So listen to this. This document says, quote, your affiant believes that it is necessary to search the black Nike fanny pack for evidence that demonstrates Gerhardt's access to syringes and vial medications, because again, this is a search warrant, as well as his control of such syringes and medication in an unsecured manner, thereby showing Gerhardt's ability to commit the offense in the manner that Arielle described. So how would the prosecution be able to prove that Gerhardt had those things for some sort of nefarious purpose? I mean, he's a doctor. But Arielle says he takes this fanny pack to and from work. Maybe there's, an innocent explanation. Well, during Gerhardt's bail hearing, his attorney argued that none of the drugs were found in Oahu, where the attack took place. KITV News also reports that during that hearing, the defense pointed out that witness testimony from the women who spotted the couple on the trail was hearsay, because the witnesses admitted they didn't see Gerhardt actually striking Arielle. So the judge determined that would be information for a jury to consider. And the defense also questioned her injuries. According to KITV, saying 2 doctors at Queens Hospital noted that there was no substantial risk of death from the injuries, that there was no concussion, and that there was no serious bodily injury. It's not a complicated case as far as trials go. It's like I said, he said, she said, and several witnesses. John, different layer here now.
Another layer. And again, I want to know what's in the syringe and what his side of the story is with the lava rock. You're going to expect some level of self-defense but again, now you have the admission to the son as well. It's going to be convoluted, but you still, again, I think right now where I am is Arielle still has more check marks, right? But we again, some of his story is wrapped up in the Fifth Amendment. We will hear some of it through his defense lawyer in the presentation of evidence and discovery, and certainly there will be some that leaks through to the divorce and injunction cases. Just horrible.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But by the way, are you surprised that she didn't make? Are you surprised that he didn't make bail?
In this day and age, usually you would see bail in, particularly in Florida, and a lot of the states I'm licensed. He has a job. I wouldn't assume that they could establish he's not a flight risk. But they got the judge that clearly looked at it from the other side of the evidence against him and the nature of the crime.
Yeah, they thought he was a flight risk. They thought he was a danger to the community. That's what the reporting seems to suggest. So, you mentioned divorce. So, in an unsurprising move, Arielle filed for divorce from Gerhardt on May 6th, seeking full custody of their 2 sons. Court paperwork says grounds the marriage is irretrievably broken. So she had also been granted a TRO, a temporary restraining order, against him, but agreed that that could be dropped since Gerhardt is currently locked up with no bond. In her original petition for the TRO, this is according to the Associated Press, Arielle accused Gerhardt of sexually abusing and assaulting her. She also said that they had been going to counseling and therapy since he had accused her of having an affair. She had hoped to keep details about her divorce private. Her attorney filed a motion to withhold the divorce case from the public to protect her children's privacy. And Gerhardt's attorney filed a response saying he didn't object to sealing the divorce case. Arielle also wanted media cameras out of any divorce proceedings, but the judge denied those requests. So, John, do the divorce proceedings have any bearing on the criminal case? Could details from one come up in the other?
Definitely. Certainly there's going to be some discovery that can be used from one to the other and the other to one. But again, I'm not the family law guy. My partner, Matt Hunt, loves it. He loves getting in the weeds. I'm like the wrongful death guy, right? He can't stand the death of a child. And so we're fit to be partners because we do separate things. But in his cases that leak into my cases, in personal lives, when couples are at this point where there's allegations of an affair, where there's allegations of assault, where there's abuse, right? They need to separate from one another. And they need to figure out, parenting plans, not continue to push the limits of each other in private. because whatever happened, they're both going to take a strong stance that it was caused by the other one. And so you have to merge to some extent as a prosecutor or defense attorney the divorce into the ultimate events that happened on March 24th.
Yeah, and it's a really, really unfortunate series of events and allegations. And here's something interesting, John. So KITV reports that Gerhardt's trial is supposed to start next week, which is pretty quick since the alleged crime occurred. Is that unusual to you?
I think that's the constitutional, speedy trial guaranteed through states and the federal government. I suspect that's going to be pushed pretty quickly. I would imagine there's not even testing back on the syringe contents. I mean, I don't know what was seized at the scene and what happened to the syringes, but there's probably some forensic evidence that hasn't even been examined yet. You'll need experts in this case. There's a lot that's going to happen, I would imagine, to push this thing out.
Not a lot of clear answers, and even the defense is raising some kind of potential reasonable doubt about the witnesses, about the attack, about the injuries. Our team, though, currently monitoring court records for any delay. We're going to be sure to let you know if anything changes. But I will say, according to Hawaii's penal code, he could face life in prison with the possibility of parole if he's convicted. So the stakes are quite high here. John Phillips, thanks so much for taking the time. It was great seeing you.
My pleasure. Great seeing you.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.